Please wait. All right, I think we are live now, but I'm going to have to send everybody over to the new link by finding the new link first. So, hang tight. So this will... So manage... So I can find... Okay, great. This is the new link here. And get shareable link. And... Where is the shareable link that I just got? I say, click it again. Get shareable link. Oh, it's copied to the board. Hey everyone, use this link instead. All right, let's see if that'll get people switching over. Now you guys need to go to a whole new link. Look at the comments, and you can find it in there if you want to see.
Oh, there we go.
Thing.
I see you.
All right, groovy.
Hey
so I gotta find it myself.
I need to find it too.
Live and
let's
great.
See if that'll get people switching over.
All right, I've got us on YouTube. Awesome. And then I hear lots of people watching YouTube in the background.
Yeah, turn it down.
So that's great. So I'm gonna leave this around for the that's awesome. Is that Brian Carter? Is that who that is? Rapper BC? I love it. All right, so let me see here. So how do I get to the new one? Because I want the comments there too. Where is the link for the video? Hey everybody, thanks for being here. Thanks for your patience. Pop out chat. That's what I wanted. Awesome. So, I see some folks in the chat. I see Sean Waite joining us, and I see Chief Barfly and Rapper BC. Looks like we are successfully migrating, so that's good news. Good news. Let me see if I can pin this new link for people so they can find it. Pin message. All right, groovy.
Where are you putting it?
What's that? The pin message?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just in the old one, just so that if people go there, they see.
Okay.
They see that we're in a new place, hopefully.
So I need to go to the old one.
I see some people jumping in. Are you Porcupine guys happening? Does everybody feel like we're resituated?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, I think I got to turn...
Looking good.
Hey, Matthew, say hi.
Hello.
Cool. So, hey, those of us who are watching and joining us from YouTube, what up? I'm Lij Shaw, and you are here to hang with us tonight for our Porcupine live stream virtual listening party. So, I'm joined right now by a bunch of the guys that I was lucky enough to make this record with, and we'll go around and say hello. But unfortunately, we all live in different places, so it was more doable for us to... hold on, I hear a lot of typing come from somewhere. I want to mute people until it goes away. It was a lot more doable for us to join you all and have a listening party if we did a virtual version. So that's what we got here. So drop a comment in and let us know where you're joining us from. I see Chaz jumping in from New York, Rapper BC. I think you're in Nashville. I think that is Brian Carter, fellas. Is that right, BC? And Sean Waite joining us from Ontario. Glad you guys can be here. You guys want to go around the room and introduce yourself? Since I can see what order we're on the screen, or you can on YouTube too. Sean, why don't we start with Sean and go around that way?
Hey, I'm Sean McGovern. I'm the songwriter. Yeah.
Right on. Right on.
Right on.
And then we got Meghan.
Is that it?
Joining us from where? Where are you, Meg? Oops, you're muted.
Okay,
Sorry.
I'm over in Los Angeles, California, Hollywood recording studio, and I am the record label that is releasing this record.
Awesome.
There's a doggy behind you.
That's Chevy.
And also, you guys on YouTube, let us know if the levels are generally balanced, or if anything's crazy, just let me know. Just drop a comment in. And we got Chris. Oh, hold on, you're muted. Let me unmute you. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Chris King. I wrote the poems that Sean turned into the songs. I'm Sean's connection to the rest of these guys, and I ran for the beer.
And you're also, let's see, we have 3 podcast guests on this call right now, too, for Recording Studio Rockstars. Megan, Chris, and then who's next? John, say hi, man.
Hey, I'm John Fintel. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I'm in Relay recording right now, which is the studio that I own. And
Amazing place.
I helped engineer and mix the record.
Yeah, you did. Say hi, Dave.
Hey everybody, I'm Dave Melson. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. I met Lij and Chris back in Washington University, where a number of us went to school together and first started our bands, and we're still making music now, and it's more fun than ever. So glad everybody can join.
Awesome, Dave. Glad you're here too, man. And then Mathew.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Mathew. I played the drums and was tortured by having to play hand percussion at 4 a.m. by Lij. I'm in San Jose, California, and was dragged into this because Chris was my English professor.
That's right. That's right. We got some stories to tell too about how we all got here. So we sort of span some generations. Well, I don't know about generations, but we span some decades between us for sure. Let's do a little bit of an introduction of what this record is. I'd love to hear Chris or Sean kind of tell us about the beginning of this. I mean, we should preface this by just saying that if we go way back, Chris King and I were in a band together, and and Chris was singing, and that band was Enormous Richard back at Washington University. And when the band sort of began to fade out a little bit in terms of what it wanted to do, Chris and I looked at each other, and we talked about this on the podcast before, and we were like, well, we don't want to stop doing this. We like the road trips. We like the music. We like the recording part. And so what do, Chris?
Well, instead of going around the country and asking people to pay attention to us, we went around the country and asked people if we could pay attention to them. We became field recordists.
We did indeed. And that led us to recording more than just music, because we ran into some poets when we were in Willimantic, Connecticut. And one poet in particular, who was the poet laureate of Connecticut and originally from Maine, was Leo Cannellin. And when we recorded that, I think, Chris, you were struck by that stuff first.
Yeah, it occurred to me that the recording of this long poem, Crossing America, was half the length of a CD, which was the platform at that moment. So we commissioned people to record little musical vignettes following the readings of the parts of the poem. And we released that as a CD, and it was covered by the BBC. So we'd been slogging away, playing our own music for 10 years, and no one noticed, hardly. And one poetry record were on the BBC, so we said, let's do poetry. And that's kind of what this is, because now Sean worked with my poems. It started by us working with other people's poems. But
yeah.
In this weird flip, now I'm the poet and Sean is the singer.
Right. So, Sean, you want to take it away from there? So you guys started sort of collaborating. This is sort of an extension of something that we've done as a group, which we kind of has this catch-all term of poetry scores, where poems get sent around and then it makes it possible for somebody else to write a song if they didn't feel like doing lyrics, right?
Right. Chris and I got together. I started writing. I wrote a song for one of the poetry scores that we did for Marne Petrosian. And then Chris sent me a poem that he wanted me to write a song to, and we liked it. So then he sent me his notebook, and this was in the spring of 2018. And then over the next 6 months, I wrote like 100 songs, just to a bunch of his poetry. I would take different poems and combine them. And it was kind of collage poetry in the first place. So it worked really well for putting stuff together. And so we put together, Chris and I, what we thought were several different albums. We recorded one at your studio that we released in 2020 with Moonshine. And then this is the second one, Porcupine. But most of the songs were written around the same time.
Yeah. So, so it was a really fun exercise for all of us because pretty much everybody here, like Mathew, Dave, you, Sean, me, have all had a chance to take some poem that was shared in our group chats and then like write a song and then have a chance to throw us all in the studio as a band together and record it. But of course, Sean, you were like a little bit insanely prolific.
Right.
Like the rest of us were like, you get a text message, you see a poem and you're like, cool, I think after work, I'm going to try and work on something. But by the time we would come back to the phone, you'd already like sent 10 new songs to the group.
Right.
So it became very clear early on that you were going to need a bigger playpen than the rest of us for making records. And Chris noticed that right away, of course.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of his prolific nature and the two records Sean mentioned, there's a third in what we consider the Lost Man trilogy, and that's Woodpecker, and we're tracking that this summer at Relay in Columbus with Jon. So we're very excited about that.
There you go.
Sean and I are determined to raise money for the great Carl Marsh, to add strings and winds to Woodpecker.
That's going to be exciting. And there's nothing like saying that out loud on a live stream to really like make us put us on the spot for follow through too. I love it. So let's see, let's keep moving forward sort of quickly because we want to get to the listening part. So you, Chris, Sean, you guys composed a batch of songs really quickly. You're also great at assembling and sorting through these songs. And Chris, you in particular, in finding a theme and assembling a group of songs into what seems like a cohesive and sensible collection to make an album in an order that makes a lot of sense too. And I think that comes from your extensive experience in making mixtapes for friends and girlfriends, growing up and that sort of thing.
As much time as all of us spend talking about these projects, Sean and I spend a separate lifetime, just the two of us. The song orders, one song creeps up 2 slots, it creeps back down, songs come in, songs come out. We have vehement arguments. Sean wins the arguments. It goes like that.
Yeah. Well, so then we found ourselves saying, hey, let's do a session here in the studio of this record and all Sean's songs. We had done Moonshine previously, and we came back to do Porcupine, knowing a little bit more. We learned a couple of things. Like Sean, you said, you guys don't have to hand me the acoustic guitar. I don't have to play on this, Right. So we tried something different where you got to focus just on singing. And then, I think I also said, guys, I really like, I love engineering and producing, but I really like being a musician. So if we're going to do this, please give me the green light to do whatever I can think of production wise and play guitar and do all that kind of stuff. And you said yes. So we went into the studio to put a band together. And of course we knew for sure, Dave Melson, you were going to be joining us and playing bass because I always want to make records with you. We all do. So that was a for sure certain thing.
And Dave is the greatest bass player alive on the planet.
There's also that advantage. Yeah.
The greatest rock bass player in the world is Dave Melson. Absolutely.
But one of the moving targets when we're trying to do the band thing has been having a drummer for the session because our longtime friend Matt Fuller, and drummer from back in college days with Enormous Richard, he's now on the West Coast, and so it can be hard for him to come for a session. And so then, Chris, you said, I know a drummer. You want to tell us that story?
Oh, Mathew should tell us that story. How did you get dragged into this, Mathew?
So, I'll make it very brief, but I think the gist of it was I was a student in Chris King's English class, and then my final project was on the Yardbirds. I wrote an essay and recorded a little bit of music, and then somehow I got brought up that they needed a drummer. And then so I got dragged across state lines by my professor to go record in Nashville. But then Chris had to bail at the last minute for something. So instead, I got to get dragged across state lines by Sean, who I had never met in my life. And then we had a great time and recorded music for 3.5 or so days.
With your
without
mother
anyone I knew.
texting you, your mother texting you, right? Saying, "Are they axe murderers? Have they pulled out the axes yet?"
That's great.
Correction, I dragged you across state lines.
Oh, was it? Maybe it was Sean a different time then. Thank
Right.
you. Thank you. Yes,
You've been dragged
that's
a
right.
lot. A lot of dragging for you.
Well, I'm glad you did. And, you know, one of the advantages to dragging you across state lines for a session, Mathew, is that you're a damn good drummer.
Yeah.
And like playing drums with us wasn't your first time, you know, hitting the head of a drum, which we learned later on by seeing you do all that crazy, way over the top marching band, you know, competition level stuff that you've done. So awesome to have you here. Awesome to have you here.
Briefly, that Yardbirds recording project he did for my class, I connected with Dave for his home studio. So the first transgression was he goes to his teacher's buddy's basement to record. And after the session, I called Dave. I said, "Can he play?" He's like, "Yeah, he can really play." I said, "You think he can handle a trip to Nashville?" Dave said, "I don't see why not." So we kind of scouted him.
So I
Right
had
on.
met Dave once. So see, it wasn't even that bad. Worse in my memory.
That's awesome. Well, so then we found ourselves putting together a studio and or putting together the studio and putting together a band for the studio rather. And then at that point, you know, I was also doing podcast interviews, and I had just done an interview with Jon Fintel, and I said, I think, John, we were just chatting about having fun making music for fun with friends and all that. And I think you made a comment about like, you know, you were kind of itching to get out of town and do something fun. And I was like, well, why don't you just come on down to the session if you want, man, come hang with us. And you did.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about,
did.
give us a brief recap of your trip coming down here.
I just drove down not knowing what I was going to get into. And I went there for the setup. Like I got there early, and I remember your computer
Yes.
blew up or something.
Studio
You
life.
had an issue with that. So you're running around. Yes, you're running around going to Micro Center or whatever it was. And I just started setting some things up, I think, while you were gone. Because you were like, once they get here, once they get here, there's no messing around. We have to go. So I tried to get everything as close as I could. And then you told me a little bit about everybody, and you were spot on about everyone. Yeah. So then we just started going, and you guys tracked way, like I had a limit. I was like, look, man, I can be here until about 11. and at that point, I'm going to check out. And then the next day I would come in, you guys would be having breakfast or something. And then I would hear someone say, I did percussion until 4 a.m. last night. And I was like, oh, good. I'm glad I left when I did, because that would have been another 5 hours on top of a long day. I don't know how you guys did it.
I'll
There's
be
some
honest,
crazy
if I'm in
marathon
your
stuff.
shoes, I can't do it. If I'm engineering or like pressing buttons in the studio, occasionally I can, but for some reason when I'm just playing music, as long as the ideas keep flowing, we just keep going, which is fun.
Yeah, I think that's important that we
got the- yeah.
let people know the process of the recording, because when we come into the project, everyone has heard my demos, which are basically just me playing the acoustic guitar and singing the songs. But we've never played the songs together. We really don't have any idea what each other is going to play. They've just heard my demo. We get there on Thursday and we start recording the songs, and then we're done by Sunday. So it's we call it the death march, because it's just like we just start going, and we have however many songs. In this case, it was 10 songs. We just start going, and they got to be done by Sunday before we leave. And so it really brings out the best in everyone. It brings out a lot of creativity, and people just interacting with each other, because we don't know what each other's going to play, and it really gives the recording a live sound that people are going to hear. And that would lead us to the next thing, which is Peter Brooks. We haven't talked about him yet.
Yeah.
The first album, Moonshine, was a little bit more of a singer-songwriter album, and Chris and I definitely had an idea that we wanted this to be more of a rock album, and which for us meant a dual guitars. So we had Lij, obviously, and then we wanted a second guitar player, and so we left that up to you, Lij, and you brought in Peter Brooks. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, Peter is awesome. So Peter was an intern here at the studio, at the Toy Box studio with me, and he
actually engineered Moonshine.
Right, and he engineered the first record we did.
Right.
And we had a really great time working together as in that capacity in the studio. And then later, another intern who actually just had lunch with today, Jason Chiarella, came in, and he was buddies with Peter. And at one point he said, like, hey man, Pete's playing a show down at Grimey's new and used pre-loved music record store. And so I went with him to go see the show that Peter was playing, and I saw them play in this band. Oh my God, The Medium, I think is the name of the band. And they were amazing. Like, and Pete was so good. And I was like, holy shit, this is great. By the way, I can say that word because we marked not safe for kids on this YouTube video before we did it.
Good idea.
And so anyway, so I thought, we should just have Pete come in, and Pete came in and he just like blew us away with his guitar playing. It's a really great thing. I really enjoy this sort of being of a particular generation and inviting, these young guys like Mathew and Pete to come in and play. And then also Jon Rich, who was interning with us at the time and also came in and played a lot of keys with us and trombones and things like that. And then just, it's like having these hot shots on the team. So let's keep moving forward here too, because we got a lot to listen to. Also, two more things I wanted to say. After we recorded this stuff at a high pace, then John, you stepped in and offered to start mixing it, or to mix it up there at Relay Recording, which you did. Mm-hmm. And when we got to the point of you having already done all this fantastic work on the mixes, and we're at the point of like, okay, here's comment time. How do we say what we think it should be next? I suggested, rather than trying to comment through the internet, would it be more fun for us to just come on up there and hang out with you, and we'll just close out all the mixes in another Power Weekend? And we got to do that back in the spring, and it was awesome. It was super, super fun. We had such a blast hanging with you in Columbus, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And of course, go ahead, Chris.
We came out of a traveling band in the 90s, and Columbus is the perfect routing gig from St. Louis to New York, where we wanted to play. So we have these pre-existing road families in Columbus, and the warmest memories. I love that town and the people there. So we had places to stay, and now Columbus is it's back on the map for us. We're tracking there in June, and I just see Columbus, like Nashville and St. Louis, as one of our cities.
Yeah. All right. You were enormous. You were enormous in Columbus.
We were briefly a thing at Stashes. Briefly.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, we're getting some great comments in the chat too. We've got Stone Cold joining us. So Stone Cold was one of the very first great interns that I had here at the studio, and he was doing those earliest like Blind Cat Black recordings with us and stuff like that. So glad to have you here, dude. So John, thank you so much for all your amazing work on this. Last, but not even by a long shot least, the record has to come out to the world. And a huge shout out to our longest and oldest time buddy, Meghan Gohil, joining us from Hollywood Recording Studios. And you can see his incredible studio in the background there. Meg, what's up, dude?
How's it going? Cool. So I'm really excited to get this record out to the world. We've got it up on iTunes and Spotify and all the big labels. The last step in the process was getting together everybody's getting together all the information as far as the bio and the press release, the photos, the whole bit, and getting it out there for distribution.
And it's awesome, dude. The stuff you do is at a ninja level with, I mean, like, so just to give a little context to everybody, Meghan is somebody who doesn't just look at a spreadsheet and thinks, I know how to do that. He looks at a spreadsheet and he sees art. He sees pure art. And he sort of invented the database. So his ability to keep track of everything and make sure it all happens is amazing. So I just want to also give a shout out to Pete Johns, who's joining us on the live stream right now. That means we are being joined from the other side of the planet, everybody, from down under. So really, really fun to be able to do this with all of you.
Yeah.
Can I add one thing about Meghan? Since our drummer on this project started his relationship with us as my English student, when Meghan and I were students at Washington University, I would edit his term papers occasionally for various services and trades. So my editorial in his term paper also is built the bond with our label.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, so everybody who you guys here all on the stage, the band, and then everybody who's watching this on YouTube right now, we're about to listen to the record. So shall we go in there and kick it off? Did I forget anything, Sean, before we hit play on the first song? Do you want to introduce the first song?
The first song is The Horse of Pain. I think, Chris, do you have anything to say about The Horse of Pain?
Maybe after we'll tell the story.
Okay.
All right. Great. So I'm gonna press play, Rockstars, and everybody in the band. Let's remember to mute your mics now and then unmute them when the song ends. And away we go, hopefully.
Try to kill you if you try to break it. You see the man, the horse of pain broke them. You see the women, the horse of pain has broken them. They moved hell, and then they tore it down. But nobody ever tears hell all the way down. You see the man, the horse of pain broke them. You see the women, the horse of pain has broken them. You can climb up on pain's shadow, and you can ride. You can climb up on pain's shadow, and you can ride. But for a all crawling things by. One turns to strangers, sitting on the shore of drunkenness. One turns to strangers. You see the men, the horse of pain broke them.
All right, cool. You got a little snippet of the next song, but that's cool. So, first of all, everybody who's joining us on YouTube, did you hear that okay? Let me know in the comments. Let me make sure I can see the comments. Could you guys hear that? Chaz and Pete Johns and Sean Waite and Rapper BC, were you guys getting great quality stereo audio? Hopefully so. I worked really hard to make sure that that would come through.
Looks, Sean was joined by his superpower there for a moment.
Explain, elaborate.
I think you're muted, Sean.
Oh, is Sean muted? There you go.
Sean, come on.
I'm still not getting him. I think he's muted sometime.
Uh-oh. Sean, are you still muted? Yeah, you seem to be off for some reason. Wouldn't it be a bummer? Excuse me. Hopefully you guys don't hear me eat peanuts in the mic.
Well, you can keep hoping, but it sounds like you're chewing inside my eardrum.
Yeah.
Dang it. There's no fun on the internet.
So on the Horse of Pain, there really should be a lyric credit to Craig McCorkle, who I can't find. But he was a guy in Philadelphia that said most of those lines to me when I was interviewing him for a writing project. I had a trip to Philadelphia to interview him about something else, and the night before I arrived, his girlfriend died, and he discovered her. And he wanted to go through with the interview, and he just wept. I mean, just a flood of tears the entire interview. And that was his attempt to explain what he was going through. All those words, pain is a wild horse until you break it. It'll try to kill you if you try to, all verbatim, Craig McCorkle.
Right on, man. Maybe talk a little bit about what that means for the gig book process. Like, where does this stuff come from?
Well, you know, Sean said earlier, Sean collages poems of mine that are collages. So I take notes when people talk. I take notes when I talk. I write down my thoughts. Like a traditional poet, I write down snippets of things I read or overhear at bars. And I try to make them, when I think I've got enough good material, I play with them until they feel to me like a poem. I don't necessarily know what they mean, but it feels like a poem. And I send that to you guys, including Sean. And Sean is particularly good at taking a good poem with weak lines and taking out the weak lines and just leaving them out, or taking a weak poem with good lines and bringing those good lines and plugging the gaps. And he really curates the poem. So many of these are very different as poems. That one is more or less, it's closer to, that song is closer to the poem than others. But yeah, these songs are collages of collages.
That's awesome. Sean, do we hear you now? I think so.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we're pretty influenced by early REM, with where a lot of the lyrics are not stories, they're not narratives, they're mood pieces and imagery, and so that's had a big effect on what we were doing with this project for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Let's see, John, how about you, man? Do you have any thoughts or memories about any of these particular tracks? Maybe it's putting you on the spot to remember one song in particular. But I mean, I will say that one of the things that I appreciated was, for me, I played the slide guitar on that, and it was like stepping out on the plank and hoping I don't get eaten by sharks. But what you did with the mix was so great that I remember being in Columbus and we were playing it for our friends up there, and she was commenting on that her slide. She didn't even know I played the slide, but she kept talking about the slide guitar. So, not trying to put a spotlight on me, but it felt good, you know.
Yeah, that's the main part of the song. Besides the vocals, I think that's like a hook type thing. And I made it damp. I treated it a lot like a pedal steel almost.
What does that mean to you when you're mixing? How do you find what you want to focus on?
Whatever catches your ear. I mean, you listen to things. Whatever hooks you in and pulls you into the song is the thing that you kind of want to make sure is highlighted. You know. And that's what's going to pull other people into the song typically too. I mean, everybody's different, but there's, if there's a hook, there's a hook.
Also, that slide part that points to a development in Lij's playing. When we were all kids at Wash U, Lij and Dave were in a band called Green Eggs and Spam that was like math, jazz, rock, and like lots of notes, lots of key changes. And now he's just becoming Lij has become increasingly simple in his playing, and I'll see him work on a part, and rather than adding notes, he's taking them out, he's making them simpler. He's gotten really good at simplifying, which I think brings in more emotion than too many notes.
Right on, dude.
Right. More digestible.
It's like what the blues man said to the jazz man. You know why you play so many notes? Can't find the right one.
Yeah, well, I learned a lot from you guys. I mean, I basically learned to appreciate a song from you, Chris. You introduced me to the song. Sounds like a stupid thing to say, but you're right. I liked a lot of notes on guitars before I started listening to bands that had songs, and you introduced me to those bands. Let me see here. I've got a little clip of, I don't know if it's the next song.
It
so
is.
Well, I've got a, what I wanted
video?
to, yes, the video. It's the next one. Okay, great. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So this is a little peek into what it's like. Hopefully it's a peek into what it's like in the studio when we're trying to figure out what the next song is. And you're going to see Peter Brooks in this, figuring it out on his awesome Les Paul that I guess he brought for the session. Or maybe that was one that I had and I didn't know I had and he borrowed. I can't remember, but let me see if this will work. So this is us just in the control room getting ready to do the next song, and we're learning the chart. Hopefully this will play. Everybody, remember to mute your mic when you're not talking. That goes for you, Chris. All right, cool. So that was just a little peek behind the scenes. Hopefully it's not too glitchy on the watching. Let me see if I can turn off the screen share real quick. And then let's go on to the next song. So, Sean, what do you want to tell us about this next track, the second track on the album? You got to unmute yourself.
This is the title track.
And Rock says, remember to pour your beer for the listen.
This is the title track, Porcupine. And it's a very simple song. I think a lot of these songs on this album are very basic. There's not a lot of parts, just straightforward. So rock and roll. Dual guitar attack. Here we go.
All right. So let me make a comment, though, because now's a great time to explain. Oh, I think we lost Chris, but he's coming back. Now's a great time to also say, where did this amazing image of the porcupine come from?
Well, that's the one and only Matt Fuller, included in our Washington University kind of posse. As Matt Fuller, he was the drummer and one of the songwriters in our college band, Enormous Richard, which became Eleanor Roosevelt, which became Poetry Scores, of which Sean McGovern is one of our main people, now our main person. And Matt also is a visual artist. He makes a living. It's hard to believe someone still makes a living in Los Angeles making art with their bare hands, but that's what Matt does for a living. And fortunately, he donates his great gifts to us.
Matt, you're a rock star, true rock star. And then I think it's worth commenting on that the image that you see in the bottom of the live stream right now, that's the Apple logo of the record that Matt made. But how did Matt make that record or make the logo? He, in a world of digital possibilities, Matt actually sketches it, draws it out, and then creates an actual woodcut of the porcupine and then carves it by hand and then stamps it. And that's where the actual thing comes from. And Chris, didn't you have a vision for CDs? I mean, I know it's a little bit throwback of us, but CDs and vinyl that would somehow incorporate the hand carved stamp of it?
Yeah, I mean, I have the dream of, I still use CDs in my car. I know it's a dead medium, but vinyl is expensive. I would like to make CDs and just actually hand print each cover. Be fun.
I think that's a great idea. And we don't have to go too deep into it, but it's a testament to the importance of thinking outside the box with music stuff these days and like coming up with a reason for people to want whatever it is that you made. So everybody, let's mute and I'll play the next track. Here comes number 2, Porcupine, and we'll try and move more quickly through the next songs.
Does it him and how she holds you without forgetting herself? In a town that never knew gentlemen, a woman is watching who never got to go away. Rain into the ocean, charity one day. Out on the road, a cold dark night, crushed in the mud, porcupine. Sometimes you want to turn around, but really you can't. She learned to wait a long time, time on her hands. You can get your heart broken, and it can stay broke. You get to start over wherever you go. Woman of thorns, sometimes she hides. Man of thorns, porcupine.
All right. That was awesome.
I've made some feeble attempts to interface with the St. Louis Zoo about this song. And feeble attempts, because I know what they really would think, which is that your song makes Porcupine a metaphor for something bad, and our porcupines are lovable little animals, love the quill,
I don't know if you saw Daisy the dog here, but she once got into a tussle with a porcupine in Maine on one of our mountain hikes. And I had the undesirable task of extracting porcupine quills from her face with pliers while we held her down. And I guess what I learned is you pull them very quickly.
Yeah.
Wow. I've never heard that story, Lij. Wow, that's amazing.
I think it's like a nose hair, I mean, if you're going to go for it, just get it. Get it.
Exactly. So, Chris, I was introducing some other studio characters over the video camera on that last listen. And I can't remember if one of those was one of the executive producers on Porcupine or if the executive producer went to California.
Something like that. I part of my mental deterioration is I now bring finger puppets to these sessions and try to get them to be like an executive producer, like Vincent Van Gogh. Like Vinny. Okay, so then the game then is like if you want to try to get a end around Lij, who is trying to make all the decisions, you say, well, I talked to Vinny and he said. So you're always trying to sell the new consensual ideas what the finger puppet wants. And then there's this dramatic show the last day of the session where I announced that the finger puppet decided it's happier in the studio, so they stay behind.
Right on. Well, in the interest of moving forward, let's jump on to the next song unless anybody has anything they want to say. And the next one is, what song is next up, Sean?
I got everything I wanted.
Thing I wanted. Yeah, I got everything. Yep.
So hold on, I'm going to say the full title because it's such a fucking good full title. The name of the song is "I Got Everything I Wanted, and I Wanted Everything." I mean, it just says so much. It's like I feel like this needs to be an anthem on the sport field or something. It's an anthem song for sure to me.
I ask you to keep this question in mind, sports fans: is this a good or a bad thing?
Getting everything you wanted.
To want everything and get everything what you want. Listen to this man's
Taylor
story.
Swift should
And
be
is it a good or a
covering
bad
this.
thing?
What do you say, John?
I said Taylor Swift should be covering this.
Exactly. Yeah, it seems like they got everything they
Bowl.
wanted recently, huh?
Exactly.
All right. Well, here comes everybody. Mute your mics and prepare for more rock and roll.
I got everything I wanted and I wanted everything. mother. She nurses he who will avenge the murder of the son. My father's horse is losing his teeth. I got everything I wanted and I wanted everything. I got everything I wanted and I wanted everything. I got everything I wanted. I got everything I wanted. I got everything I wanted and I wanted everything.
Oh man, I
This
love that
past
tune.
summer, we actually played that live.
Did
Ah,
what was that? When did you guys play it? Did I play it with you and I forgot?
Yes, we played it at someone's wedding.
You were pretty high.
Oh yes, we did. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Someone's wedding. Someone's wedding, right?
all right. I have to say this. So, in my teaching, take a risk. Take risks is a big theme, and that's the spirit in which Mathew and I. He went to my friend's basement, and then he went to my friend's studio across state line, 2 state lines, and then, we have a good time, and he's one of us now. And he calls me one day. We don't call each other much, of course. We text all the time, and he says, I want you guys to be my wedding band. And I says, well, Mathew, like how we are. We write our own songs, and we're not a wedding band. And he said, take a risk.
Take a risk.
The ultimate revenge. So we were his wedding band.
That was amazing.
I must
We
say
got-
that was so much fun to play that show, because we rehearsed a lot of covers virtually in our minds and maybe a couple of Zoom calls, but that was wonderful. And that last song we heard was one of the ones that we played.
Yeah, it was. Thank God for originals, because they're a little bit like gimmies on a live show where you're like, oh, I know this one. But that was so much fun.
gummies?
Matthew getting married, like
They're like
gimmies.
gummies? Oh,
They're like gummies too. Yeah. Thank God for Matthew inviting us to come out and play at your wedding. That was so much fun, and we got to live in the redwood forest where the Ewoks live and fly around and smash into trees with stormtroopers and all that. And it was quite an experience.
And because we're musicians, we're basically not rich. And so we had to stay with Matthew's parents for the wedding. And we're sneaking beer in the house behind mom and dad's back. And his parents are younger than us.
They're actually Ewoks.
It was so hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. They don't drink. As it turns out, they're not uptight about drinking. We didn't have to be sneaking the beer in.
So on that song, I want to give a big shout out to Peter Brooks again, and Jon Rich, who's not here. Both those guys aren't on the call right now, but maybe they'll be able to see this later. But on that song, as we're trying to figure out arrangements on the fly, various things happen. I think looking at the chart, Dave, I was looking at us as that playing, and I'm looking at the chart. I'm like, wait, that's the solo. That's not even written right. So we're constantly having to correct the chart when we're out there on the floor learning this stuff. And then we decide, let's come up with some sort of solo section. And at that point, I just turned to Peter and I was like, hey, Pete, can you quickly write like an Allman Brothers harmony solo for us? And he just whipped up that little line, and then we were able to play it together while the band was playing.
That was amazing.
That was super fun.
5 seconds after you asked him that question, he came up with that.
Yeah,
He's like,
he did.
I don't know. How about... And then it took you guys a few minutes to work out the harmony, but the idea just came perfectly, beautifully, spontaneously. It was awesome.
I think Daisy just whined at me from the door. She's like, let me out. All right, I'm going to let Daisy out, and then we'll play the next song. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
So what do you think? Is it
Come
good or
back in.
bad to get everything you wanted when you wanted everything? I think it's bad. I think the moral of the story is decide what you want and ask for what you want. It's one of the it occurred to me one day to be overcommitted is to be uncommitted. If you're going to say yes to everybody, just say no to everybody because it's the same answer.
That's good advice. All right. The next song. Sean, would you like to kick us off on the next song and tell us what it's all about? Or say whatever you want to say about it?
Sure. The next song is Mariachi Walking Inland.
Oh, my God.
Chris has a. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
that's
it's
not the next song.
almost,
I'm sorry.
almost.
When Quiet Was Destroyed. So this is a little bit more of an acoustic number, but it's an upbeat acoustic number. And it's one of my favorite songs on the album because it just really reminds me of when I was a kid. And everyone in my family plays guitar. So we would have family get-togethers. And 2 or 3 people would be all playing like an old Rolling Stones song or Beatles song. And everyone would sing along in the family. And so that's really what I was going for. Is just I really want like just a fun acoustic guitar song that people would want to, sit around, drink beer, and sing along to. So
Now, was this the one we had another player on this record,
That's
Andrew Royal, who's
It
a
is
neighbor
this
of mine, and again, like John, I was like, "Hey, man, we're doing this weekend thing. You want to come over and play guitar? Just whatever song. Whenever you show up at the studio, you can just jump in on that song." And so I think this is the one where he did that, and so he's playing the second acoustic guitar.
that's right.
So let's mute our mics and then I'll roll it, and we can also grab another beer if we need to during the rolling of the music because Quiet Will Be Destroyed, and here it comes. You guys ready?
Right.
You promised me you would be back today. I had to make up my own mind, go after my own sons and take away their horses. Being a steamboat, you can always find me. Lessen the chances of losses. I heard you whispering winds of the night. At least I thought it was you. The wind was a wild river that night. I was swept far away from you when quiet was destroyed. We must stay here now till winter comes. Not till then can we hope. Now pieces of driftwood on our oceans of good old monotony. Sleep was sung a question mark. Buglers know lower down the valley. Storms must have raged while we were wrapped in slumbers. At least I think I was asleep. The wind was a wild river that night. I was swept far away from you when quiet was destroyed. As luck would have it, the wind was blowing a slow cold rain. As luck would have it, the wind was blowing a slow cold rain. The wind was a wild river that night. swept far away from you. When quiet was destroyed. When quiet was destroyed. When quiet was destroyed.
Caught a snippet of the next one there. I'm starting to get the hang of this run in the live stream thing, I think, unless you guys disagree.
I tell you, with that song, it really reminds me of how most of the poems that went into the so-called Lost Man trilogy, I was walking for hours and hours and hours at night. And I remember writing most of those words, sitting at this picnic table in this old barn that's in this pocket park in St. Louis County where I was walking.
I know that barn. Near your house.
Yeah. Very, very clear memories. And all the cold, this is a very cold record. All the cold in this record was very much, it was written in the cold. On long, cold, dark walks. Much of it, some of it during the pandemic, as I recall.
I wanted to show you guys something. I don't know if you noticed, it was like this acoustic song, and if you heard in the bridge, all of a sudden it sounds like Frank Zappa, Nanook, where, don't eat the yellow snow with the wind whipping in, because that's what my inspiration was for the bridge when you were talking, Sean, about the wind. Right. The wind was blowing, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that my first favorite record was Apostrophe by Frank Zappa, and they had the blowing wind from the ARP 2600 noisemaker and the synthesizer. So I was like, I got to come up with the wind part. And so I ended up cooking something up with, let me see if I can switch cameras real quick to show you. But I cooked something up with that right there, which was my semi-modular synthesizer that has a noise thing in it. And I whipped up kind of a sound on that, and I was so proud of it. And then at the same time, Sean, who was very thoughtful about what this should actually be happening in the song and the recording, suggested that maybe we should turn it down in the mix to a level where you really only notice it if you happen to be on headphones and you're like, what was that? So hopefully that's where it was. Let us know in the comments, rock stars, if it was appropriately placed in the mix. And let me see what kind of comments were coming in. And then do you guys have any other memories of that one you want to share?
I need to go back a few to Pain is a Wild Horse. That is actually the wild horse of pain in myself.
That's the horse right there.
Yeah.
Was he trying to
like when we came up with the idea of poetry scores?
Is that somebody trying to play slide with the horse, actually, physically?
Yeah. Pet rock, where the horse's leg is a whammy bar.
All right, I love it. All right, so let me see here. Let me get the next song queued up. And the next one is... I don't really know why I should have to explain the next one at all. Sean, what's the next one about?
What's it about? Why should I have to explain it?
Exactly.
This a lot of the lines in this, Chris can tell us more about, but they are from him being, in a bar or at a party and listening to overhearing people talking. One of Chris's favorite things he can tell you is when he goes to certain bars where people are having dates and they're having their first dates, and he hears them and what they're trying to say to each other to impress each other. And there's some lines in there from that. And go ahead, Chris.
No, Tinder date bars are a great place to write poems.
Tinder date bars.
All these people overperforming awkwardly. And this is right on the route of those night walks. And this is a bar, the Naked Vine, where Dave Melson played often with Waterloo and I think other bands. So it's perfect, like 1/3 of the way on this walk, there's the coolest bar in town and with great beer. And so I'd like walk there, have a beer, walk an hour or two, come back and have a beer, and then go home. Often with another pint of beer in a glass that I would then keep. And at one of those, this guy, it was obviously a first Tinder date. They obviously didn't know each other. And the guy had this weird energy. And a lot of these lines are from him. And I think they're just amazing lines.
Are you saying that beer plays a central role in some of this making of our poetry and the music?
There's a place for it.
There's a place for it. I think that's a good way to put it.
We made a record called Water, Bread, and Beer.
We did indeed, because those we felt at the time were the main staples of what we needed to make some music.
And Water, Bread, and Beer is available on iTunes.
There you go, Meg.
There
There it is. A word from our sponsor.
By the way, there's me and Megan at his wedding.
Amazing.
I was the officiant. I was the preacher, and the best man was...
Actually, you were the best man, Chris.
I was the best man.
And the officiant
was...
Lawrence Tolhurst of The Cure.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What?
That was
Yeah.
the officiant at your wedding?
Yeah.
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 You know, Lawrence Tolhurst opened for me, more or less, at Megan's wedding.
All right, Megan, briefly, why was Lawrence Tolhurst at your wedding?
He's a really good friend of mine. I've recorded a few albums with him, and he offered to officiate the wedding. So
You've done more than just record a few albums, though, right? Haven't you produced a few albums with him?
I've recorded a few albums. I've engineered them. Yeah.
All right. Good enough. Good enough. Well, anyway, we got the next song lined up, and we've explained it, even though we shouldn't have to. And let's mute our mics, and we will prepare for No Need to Explain It. And the title is actually Why Should I Have to Explain It? Here comes the muting of the mics. I'm going to mute Sean's mic for him because he's not doing it.
I'll meet you down in Isthmus Town. Grease trails, the oil of the famed candlefish. The west wind split me pretty near in two. Why should I have to explain it? Looking for places exposed to the wind from the sea, under the roots of trees in the valley. I still see him now. After this, why this far into the horns of night? Should I have to explain it? Why should I have to explain it? Why should I have to explain it?
Hey,
It was
Lij.
so short, I barely had time to show any images there, huh?
So in one of those images, you had this really cool, looked like an organ or a piano or something. Can you talk about that?
All right, let me see if I can find that. Let me bring it back up here. Hang tight, here it comes. I'll kind of go in reverse from where the image is now. So this is a shot of all of us, including there's Peter, there's Daisy, the studio dog, Dave, Chris Hessian, who was our intern in the studio at the time. What up, Chris? If you're watching this, you rock. Hope you're doing great things. And then the first friend of mine in Nashville, Pat Smith, whose band, The Slags, I'm recording as well now, which is a lot of fun. And then Chrissy was my girlfriend at the time. And Pat brought in his beautiful green Carmen Gia to the session. and brought it in and parked it in front of us, and we got to hear it. It sounded amazing, and then it was just like the obvious perfect shot for or perfect choice for like a band photo op. And then you got Sean here, and there's Mathew, and there's Chris. And let me back up a little bit. So then here's, a victory photo in the studio. And Jon is in that one too. This is when Jon was here and we were doing the tracking. Jon Fintel. Jon, you rock, dude.
And that's that keyboard that I'm referring to, the one on the left.
Ah, the one on the left. That is the pump organ that is actually described in my studio tour video when Joe Gilder came and did a video with me, and we did a little studio tour. And this particular pump organ is probably from the 1800s. And wow. I saw it initially listed on Craigslist, when I was browsing before we had things like Reverb and Facebook Marketplace and all these, modern things. And it was listed as for sale or trade for sterling silver. And at the time, I was like, that's a weird thing to say. But then I thought, wait a minute, sterling silver. When my dad died, I brought some of the stuff that he had, and that included like old china and things like that. Some, just old stuff that you inherited, or that I did in this case. And along with that, I was like, wait, didn't I get some silverware that came with that that's just been like, lost in a closet? And so I went and looked, and sure enough, I had some old silverware that was just collecting dust. And so I called a buddy of mine. I was like, hey, man, how do you like figure out what silver's worth? And he said something, and I went down to Target and bought a food scale, and I was like weighing the silverware and everything. And then I called the guy, and I said, hey, man, I'd love to get that organ, and I'll do a trade, And he said, sure. So I ended up getting this particular organ, which is the head piece already fell off. But then there was a custom upholstered stool that went with it, and 2 fake Tiffany lamps, and the whole thing I traded for 4 spoons. And so I put that thing in the studio, and I thought, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good thing. I'd rather have that than 4 spoons in a closet. So that's kind of the story behind that one.
4 spoons in a closet could be a great band name.
Yeah, 4 spoons in a closet. So there's more photos I can show, but let me begin by showing you this picture and letting Chris explain why this picture is important. See if it'll zoom out for us. And then maybe Chris King, you can. Oh wait, I've got you muted. Let me unmute you. Sorry about that. Hold on. I think I had you muted for a moment. Can we hear you now, Chris?
That's Carl Marsh.
Yeah. And who is Carl Marsh, Chris?
Carl Marsh arranged the woods and strings on Big Star's Third, Sister Lovers. Well, he did a lot of other things. He's on a lot of ZZ Top records. He's on REM Document. But, I mean, Sister Lovers that's the bomb. I don't want to say he's our friend, but I've got him to come over to the studio once. He responds to my text messages. We're going to hopefully get him to orchestrate Woodpecker.
Is he from Nashville?
He is from Memphis, where, of course, Big Star's from, and where they recorded Sister Lovers at Ardent Studio, where Jody Stevens of Big Star still works. And he now lives in Nashville.
That's awesome.
Are you sure that's not Bob Dole? Just kidding. It's a joke. You're like, who's Bob Dole?
All right, and then Chris needed, of course, to guide Carl into the studio. So here he is with the limo driver sign to welcome Carl to the studio. And we had some other folks come by the studio too, but I'll save those photos for the next one. So let's go into the next song here, and just incredibly grateful to all of you for being here and joining us for this. This is a blast. The next song is one that Sean mistakenly mentioned earlier, thinking it was the next song to come up. And my response to Sean was like, oh my God, like that. Cause this song blows me away. But I think Sean, you thought that, maybe you thought that I was responding like that cause you said the song out of order, but that's not what I
didn't.
meant.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No.
So tell us about the next song, and let me preface it, or you tell us about it, and I'm going to say, or no, let me preface it first, and then you can close out. So
Okay.
in this next song, Jon Rich, who was our intern here in the studio and who also played all the keys so brilliantly. Megan just said, I'm reading comments that are off on the side, which none of you can see, but Meg said, I spilled some wine on my curtain. So say a little behind the scenes. Anyway, Jay Rich, John, who was an amazing addition to the studio, played all kinds of keys. He played trombones, he played organ and all sorts of stuff on our recordings. But on this particular next recording, he took advantage of the modular synth that I showed you over there, the Behringer Model D synthesizer. And he came up with this incredible sound and part for the chorus that to me sounds like a steel drum.
Right.
So be on the listen for that. So Sean, tell us about the song.
Well, Andy plays the trombone solo in the middle, which is just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Chris wrote this song based upon, actually, it's called Mariachi Walking Inland. And Chris is showing the picture down there of the actual mariachi who was peering off the pier, looking into the ocean, and gave Chris the idea to write the song about what the guy was thinking as he looked over there and at whether or not he was actually going to jump off the pier. What was he thinking? So Chris sent this poem to me 3 different times over a year. So I got the idea that he really wanted me to write a song to it. So I did. And this is it, Mariachi Walking Inland.
Cool. I'm just going to also say that we didn't really have a master plan for this live listening party, but I'm just fucking loving it. And this is a blast. And I can't think of a better way to do it. So thank you all for being here. Here comes the next one.
Thank you.
Everybody, muting your microphones. Prepare for more music.
inside fears. In gaudy gold pantaloons and sombrero, he looked down a long time. He looked down a long time. He looked down a long time, but didn't jump.
You know, this is a glaring example of artistic license because he's not wearing gaudy gold pantaloons. There's no sombrero. If you look closely, it's not a big drop. He's probably looking at buying a boat.
He's probably looking at buying a boat. Did that go in the gig book? That's going in my gig book. So, Chris, take a moment and explain the gig book a little bit more to everybody's watching this. What does it mean to write things in the gig book? What does it mean to reuse that as material later?
Well, this is something that came to me naturally that I've actually been a guest lecturer in music departments talking about this method of writing because it takes a lot of the pressure off. If you look at a blank page or a blank computer screen, it's really hard to get started. It's hard to feel like you're going to say something worth saying. I think we all feel that. But if you have a notebook, and a physical notebook is fine. I think Lij and I, we now also use our phones. I don't know if I know Sean's also accumulating poems this way. You just, you write down everything that sounds good when you hear it or say it. You might think it, you might say it. It helps to have good. It always helps to have good friends. But the more social your life is, the more productive. When you go out, take your gig book, nerd out. If you say something good, or if your friend, take the moment to write it down because you will forget it. And then it's just there for you. It's the storehouse of knowledge. Also, remember all of the public source material out there. The Book of the Dead. We've been putting that to music for 30 years. The Book of the Dead is in the public domain. You can Lewis and Clark journals. We've written songs with Meriwether Lewis. Everything Meriwether Lewis ever wrote's in the public domain. Captain John G. Burke, who's all over this record, he's in the public domain. He rode with General Crook in the Indian Wars. He was a U.S. Army captain. They brought in Geronimo twice. Second time Geronimo stayed put and farmed watermelons, which is why watermelons are all over the Lost Man trilogy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Who's this, Chris? And why is this guy important to us?
Well, when Elijah was new to Nashville, I've always gone down and seen him from the earliest days. And Robin was our first mentor. Lij turned to Alex the Great, which Robin and the great Brad Jones run together. Robin was in the original Broadway cast recording of Hair. I mean, if you can get cooler than that, it would be to Marion Eris, and he did that too. So he's just the coolest guy that ever lived, and he's our buddy.
And it's just a huge honor to us when people that inspired us to make music in the first place show up at a session we're doing and come say hi.
So huge.
And then on the other end of that generational scale, here's a quick picture of Matt hanging out with Daisy on the studio couch. Getting ready to play some drums. Matt, you're either getting ready to play some drums or you just did and you nailed it. One of the two. And then let's see how. And then here's just a nice picture of us out in the spring. I don't remember whether I showed that one already, but a couple of pictures of us on a beautiful day.
Look at Sean's hair in this session, by the way. I mean, he is a father, and this is dad rock, but who's getting away with hair like this at 55, 6, 7? I mean, look at this guy. I mean, he looks 18
Not
years
me.
old.
Are you
He
a
looks like a
partridge?
good-looking
You a
18-year-old. What the fuck?
In my defense, that was during COVID, so. That's
Still, he's
COVID
got,
hair
So-
for
he
sure.
doesn't dye his
fluffy,
hair.
bro.
He doesn't
Yeah.
dye
So
his
what,
hair,
you got
his hair doesn't
younger?
fall out.
That's what you're saying?
I did,
great.
definitely.
All right. So queuing up the next track, we have Space Aliens in Spanish.
Yeah.
And this particular one was the one track that so John Fintel did Herculean efforts at helping us record this stuff and then mix these songs. And we had, as we said, we spent an incredibly super fun weekend hanging out with them up in Columbus at Relay Recording, closing out the mixes. But there was one song left and we were running out of time, and we started to look at it and we just realized that the rough mix was pretty dang close, and why don't I come down and just finish it out here? So I saved this one to mix when I got back. But one thing that I noticed was just how goddamn hard it was to match all the rest of the mixes that sounded so fucking good, Jon. So thank you, man, for all your hard work.
I've got to run. So sad to
pleasure.
miss the strangest song of the album.
Is that
for
you,
sure.
Matthew? All right. Goodbye, young Matthew.
Farewell.
It's like 4.
Goodbye,
Hey,
young Matthew. Us old guys will
Farewell.
stay up late enough for you and listen to the rest of the record.
Excellent.
Yeah, young
It's
guys
very
got to go to
fit.
bed.
Yeah.
Give
Drink
Jen
your warm
the
milk.
Will do. See you guys.
and
Hi
the
to Cassie.
Forbes and the Steinforts.
All right, I'm going to press play at the risk of everybody hanging up because I think we're done. Here comes Space Aliens in Spanish. Everybody mute your microphones.
He is a white boy, he has to own it. He will never be a brown boy. He is a white boy, he has to own it. He will never be a brown boy. That is his dancing face. That's the best he's got. That is his dancing face. That's the best he's got. Imagine if in Madame Curie's lab, body cams on everybody. Imagine if in Madame Curie's lab, body cams on everybody. When were you going to tell me? And when was I going to remember? I'm working on a project, it's called A Panther Likes Change. I've written about space, aliens in Spanish. Man, he's a white boy, he has to own it. He will never be a brown boy. He is a white boy, he has to own it. He will never be a brown boy. That is his dancing face. That's the best he's got. That is his dancing face. That's the best he's got. Imagine if in Madame Curie's lab, body cams on everybody. Imagine if in Madame Curie's lab, body cams on everybody. When were you going to tell me? And when was I going to remember? I'm working on a project, it's called A Panther Likes Change. I've written about space, aliens in Spanish. Man.
All right, so first off, I just want to comment that that's his dancing face. When I do every podcast interview now, I introduce it by saying a few things, and one of the things I say is, by the way, that look on my face, that's my normal face, so just keep going. So, and just because I'm always doing something, so same thing with this live stream. But the other line, Madam Curie's lab, body cams on everybody. What the hell is like? That's just like I don't know, it just conjures up bizarre visions.
Yeah. So, his dancing face. What do you picture in your mind when you hear that line? To me, it's obvious, and I think it should be obvious. The white man
it's like
The exact words were in my head. I just didn't say them out loud.
It's the white man underbite.
Oh, did I forget to say that out loud?
Yeah.
It's overbite for me. Do you guys underbite in Granite City?
Oh yes, I mean that's all we do. Yeah. it occurs to me on this. Thanks for setting this up, Lij. But my teaching is I only teach college to support our music because one of my students, the first assignment is an in-class writing about your experience with writing, and she said, she had an English class in high school where she wrote some science fiction, and I just love the idea of like I've written about space. I got her permission to use the line, and I've sent her every version of the song along the way, and she's always thinks, "Oh, that's cool."
That's awesome. Sean, do you have any thoughts about that song, or anybody else have any memories about it? Dave.
I wanted to point out that was musician-wise, we flipped things around that song. Maybe it's because it was like really late and we didn't have a personnel or something, and it was real acoustic guitar. So that was actually Peter Brooks on bass, and I think you and I on guitar, Lij.
That's right. Yeah.
Doing the piano part and adding that like spaceship synth line.
Oh, so great. So great.
Yeah. So
awesome.
that was fun. But I think that was one of the songs that was like we started it at 1:30 in the morning.
What bass were you guys using on that, or what kind of was it an upright or an acoustic bass or something? The tone is very different. We
either used Dave's bass or we used my Squier P bass with flat wound strings on it.
Cool. Yeah, and Peter had a great bass line, but I remember, Lij, you kind of coming up with there's actually a second bass harmony line on it. And I remember you coaching him through that. That was really
on
cool.
that one riff. I think it's actually just an octave up. It was just like it just makes it stick out in a cool way.
Right.
On that one tag, which was really fun to do. It's fun to like record songs and then start hearing all these ideas and just like, especially at 3 a.m, you're not afraid to just fuck it all up, and try whatever.
Try something weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where our headspace was like doing something totally different. I just remember being inspired by the space alien in Spanish and like coming up with that synth part of the rocket ship blasting off.
Hey, Lij, can you and Jon maybe speak a little bit to the idea of recording these songs so quickly, and what are the positives and the negatives of recording? I think a lot of our listeners are probably your recording guys, and so maybe we could talk about the recording a little bit more, because we talked about it earlier that we do the Death March where it's like we come in and we record so quickly. Do we think if we had worked on these songs for 8 months and come back and record every part differently, would they be better or would they be way worse?
I mean, I know what I think about it, but Jon, how do you feel about taking a long time to make records?
No, I think it was great the way it turned out. You guys locked right in, and you came up with the important parts, and all the other bullshit was not in it.
Yeah.
So what you needed was there. That's why the record.
Can you imagine
someone
if you
who wasn't there during the session, like you could really feel the liveness and the energy of the recording. Yeah. That's something that really came across hearing it after the fact.
Yeah, for sure. There was still like some emotion, in the performances. And I think if you sat there and worked on it for weeks and weeks and weeks, it would be deader sounding.
I mean, there are things you can do when you take your time. You can certainly manipulate stuff more, but manipulating doesn't necessarily help,
Sure.
Meghan.
Well, not for this especially. Like this genre, I don't think lends itself to that sort of approach.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that being aware of what kind of style of music it is makes a big difference. I want to give a credit to Meghan too for how we ended up here. I'm going to give credit Chris and Meghan for how I got to this point, which is way back, Enormous Richard doing takes together as a band and just trying to go for it and discovering that it was better to do a take that had energy and mistakes than try and get the take just right.
Yeah, going way back to the original Enormous Richard recording that we did back in 1990. Our tools were a 16-channel mixing board that belonged to Sean's band, and the band played live to cassette. And if I remember right, I don't think I was actually mentally present for the session. I believe Sean actually did all the pushing of the buttons for that. But we recorded the whole band live to cassette, and that record has a great feel to it.
Yeah.
It actually speaks to the classic dynamic. Sorry to chew on the microphone. It speaks to the classic dynamic of artist and technician that probably the very night before we did that record, Sean's band had been playing and Meghan had been running the sound for Sean's band. And then on the Saturday that we were at Big Sue's house recording in the basement studio, Chris's sister, Sean was awake and ready to rock and run the session, and Meghan was sound asleep up on the couch because he was exhausted because he probably had to stay up all night long packing up the PA and, bringing it over and setting it up.
Back in the day, Sean's job was to wrap up the microphone snake, or the snake for all the microphones. It took him all night to do that. Meanwhile, it took the rest of the band. The rest of the band had already torn down the whole PA and loaded it into the car.
To be a singer.
That's right.
But Sean's excuse was he was talking to all the girls, and if it wasn't for him doing that, there'd be nobody at the gig.
It's an important part of the whole thing, for sure. But Lij, you also spent years recording live gigs at Bonnaroo, which probably helped you with this idea of recording bands in a live setting, right?
Yeah.
Explains the bales of hay in the studio too.
Definitely. The comment I would make about doing stuff this way is we set it up so that you, Sean, could, whether we had a click track or not on a song, we made sure that you were singing your heart out, because that helped us know what to play. And even if you still re-sang it a couple more times, then we comped something together. A lot of these songs we actually used the live vocal on, if I recall correctly. Mm-hmm. John, you might remember that from mixing, whether you were sort of fighting bleed on the vocal mic or any of those things.
Not that much. I mean, the SM7 thing, if you used a different mic, there'd probably be more of a problem.
I think we used an SM7 on all of it, didn't we,
Was Sean in the same room with you guys?
No, but
he was in the kitchen, lounge, bathroom, coffee area.
Yeah, but it's only like a couple of panes of glass that separate us, so.
Right.
Did I just hear Daisy bark from outside? Maybe I did.
But you weren't dealing with like cymbal bleed and stuff like that kind of stuff, right?
No, just more like snare busting through the door,
It was a little bit.
So as we continue to talk about this, when we should be playing the next song, I'll introduce the next song because the title is relevant to us talking too long. The next song is called Too Far Gone. Yeah. So maybe we should, do you have anything to say before we kick it off? All right, let's mute our mics, and here comes Too Far Gone, rock stars. Here it comes. Country lovers around the world, poetry lovers, etc. All lovers.
I just have to say the drum sounds on this album that you guys got is just killing on this. It's
That's the
really awesome.
exact same thing I was getting ready to say. Can you guys talk about the drum sounds? Because they sound amazing.
You know, I think we cut this with Mathew out in the live room here at the studio. I don't remember exactly what we used for the mics. We might have used a pair of the. We might have used the Mic Tech CV3 tube condensers as overheads, or we were using some other pair of overheads, probably like a Glyn Johns thing. But really, I think the testament is more to Jon and what you did in the mix, because
Yeah.
I mean, you sound checked them, John. You got the
I did.
drum sound.
We used those ribbon mics. That guy
Oh, did
sent
we
me
use-
those ribbon
Oh,
mics?
wow.
Oh yeah.
Which
The
ribbons?
Alder audio.
Yes. Yeah, those things are cool.
Those are amazing. And the cool thing about those mics is they take care of the cymbals.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they're ribbons, so they're like gentle on cymbals.
yeah,
You don't
they
have that.
chill them out. They're not super harsh.
But you
I
did.
just pulled up the session, so I was looking at.
There you go. He's like, "What did I do?"
What did I do?
You did some. You did some trickery for sure.
And
I
the
did.
kick
I'm
drum
looking
sound was the kick and the snare were just amazing on there.
What is
Yeah,
it? We're such. Here come the audio nerds. Well, I mean, we can't help ourselves,
Yeah.
right?
Sorry,
just-
guys.
Every record is measured by a kick and a snare. You know. Sorry, everybody else.
It's kind of true, actually.
I want to bring this down to real life, ordinary people. John Fintel is we come out of the rock band tradition where the band provides nothing but a place to sleep and a meal a day. And I was still shocked that when John came to Nashville, he rented his own space and he paid for his own food. The rest of us sleep on Lij's floors. We eat Lij's chili.
Right.
John's a pay-his-way guy, man. He's just... I
I
never saw anything like it.
Well, he's a rock star. I mean, that's why he was on my show.
Right. Rock star or princess? I'm not sure. What you can call me there.
I mean, the
Our
dress.
man needed a good night's sleep. Come on, guys.
You know, the dress with the blue sequence and you know jewels threw me a little bit, but
But
no.
for the record, that's the first time
gotta be
a
me.
hotel room or Airbnb was rented in the history of our project. Not for any of our tours, for no reason to be ever paid to sleep. This man
Did I
paid to
ruin it?
sleep.
Did I ruin it for you?
No, it's a
No.
milestone.
Like I broke a streak.
No, we're growing up.
Broke
We're
a
growing
streak.
up.
No, you set us up for success,
Right.
brother.
Oh, that's nice.
So I'm gonna just say one more time that coming up to Columbus to mix with you at Relay was so much fun. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, it was amazing.
It was like the greatest road trip, and then just, I mean, we still worked our ass off to get through it all. It was work, but it was
for
like
sure.
super fun work, you know?
Chris, how many steps did you get that whole the time you were here? Because I think you walked to like 8 breweries, and you'd pop
Yeah,
back in with, I went to this place, and here's a picture of Vinny with this girl that we don't know. And then you would leave again for another couple hours and come back. Here's Vinny with another girl, and that's her leaving.
You know, it's research and development, John.
That's right, it is.
Yeah,
By the way, this is
just like Sean
This
taught
is-
us. That's why they come to the gigs.
yeah.
Because you're
That's
Yeah.
one of our Columbus friends,
Who was that?
Trent Arnold.
Alice
Trent Arnold.
Cooper, I think.
That's
Out
Brenda's
of
husband,
makeup.
former ex-husband.
Trent with the long hair? Oh,
Former
look at that.
ex-husband.
Oh, right on.
What's a
So,
former ex-husband?
but let me just say,
back
Brenda,
together?
you absolutely rock, and thank you so much for being an incredible and gracious host in Columbus, Ohio, when we were there. You made the entire trip a lot of fun. So thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to give a shout out to anybody, Chris, up in Columbus?
Well, Bob and Melissa Starker.
Yeah,
And Doug.
Doug, our
Doug, who taught
gracious
us the
host.
gay history of all of Columbus, Ohio.
So, wait, Chris,
I have to meet them.
remind us if you can share this story before we close out on our last couple of songs here. But when the night was over and we were in such a celebratory mood, having listened to the mixes so far at Brenda's place one more time with Doug, with Bob and Melissa and Doug, and then we were headed back to Doug's, who graciously hosted us. I was the first one in the door, and I turned to you and I was like, Chris, Doug's house is a little bit of a museum. Let me help you let me help you get from this back door into where your sleeping area is.
Who has a couple of drunk musicians stay in their house when their house is a glass sculpture? It's a living glass sculpture full of glass sculptures.
You know what
There's
they say.
two things in that house: glass sculptures and a coffee pot.
And they let Chris in there.
You know what they
It
say.
doesn't make any sense.
You know what they say. Don't throw rock musicians in glass houses. You know, I'm pretty sure that's something like that. So,
Oh, beautiful.
all right.
Very nice.
Wow.
Queuing up the next one. We saw at least 7 glass sculptures between the back door and Chris's bed where he was sleeping. And this next song is called I Saw 7. It's not actually the one that has the explicit logo. That was the song we just listened to. I'm sorry that I didn't warn you that you were listening to a song with explicit lyrics, but we consider them all explicit. Shaw, do you have anything to cue up this next song?
This one has the line 7 demon asses, but they're actual small horses, so there's no explicit language in this one.
Asses are not small horses.
Well, they're donkeys. All right.
Shetland
They're
ponies
donkeys.
you're talking about?
All right. Well,
We're
I'm
not talking
excited.
about rear ends.
7 Shetland ponies. That's what you're talking
Better than 7 shitting ponies. All right. So I'm excited to get these last 2 songs because, boy, have I got to pee after 2 beers. So here we go. I Saw 7, and you're awesome for being here. Muting your mics. Quiet on the set.
I saw 7 horsemen of the apocalypse. I saw 7 riding in on one horse. Oh, 7 all at one time, all on one horse. I saw 7, not 4. So the senses of the prophet was mistaken. There was a prophetic undercount. Or maybe it's apocalyptic equestrian inflation. Maybe it's 7 up from 4. After all that time, I can't tell you I saw 7 demon asses sagging the apocalypse's nag. I can't tell you I saw 7 demon asses sagging the apocalypse's nag. I saw 7 horsemen of the apocalypse. I saw 7 riding in on one horse. Oh, 7 all at one time, all on one horse. I saw 7, not 4. So the senses of the prophet was mistaken. There was a prophetic undercount. Or maybe it's apocalyptic equestrian inflation. Maybe it's 7 up from 4.
Hey, John, can you show us a little bit of your studio, of your mixing console and stuff?
I can try. I'm going to carry my laptop around. Is that what you're
Yeah.
asking? This is my board.
So-
That's yeah, that's a Trident 80B.
Cool. How many channels is it? Did you do a lot of the mixing through, like, do you have external gear also
32.
and stuff?
I didn't use the console to mix this at all because we kind of well, you had I know exactly, Lij. You're laughing because you're like, you got to get rid of that thing and get a bunch of preamps. It was already like you started it, Lij. Like you kind of started the mixes and everything. And if I had started using the console, it would have been like just going ground zero. You know?
Well, I mean, I had rough
Exactly.
mixes to guide you, but I mean, you did some really cool stuff to these. You brought out all the
Thank you.
coolness
But-
in every track, you know, which was great to hear.
It would have been a different. It probably would have taken a lot longer, and because everyone was remote at first, we didn't know that we were like you guys were going to come up here, right?
Yeah.
So then you're going back and forth, and then recalling a console for something like that is a giant pain in the ass. So, yeah.
So we have another question in. This one actually comes in from Pete Johns of Studio Live Today, joining us from the other side of the world, down under. Thanks, Pete. Pete's question is, are there any plans for music videos for any of these? This cries out for a cool animated music vid. Sean McGovern, take it away. Or don't.
We believe you're
not very
muted,
animated.
Sean.
Are you muted, Sean, or are you not muted? I can't tell. We can't hear you.
He's speechless.
There you go. We got you. We should have you. Yell something out loud so we can hear you. We hear nothing from Sean. That's too bad. Let me check audio settings. It probably switched your mic on. It's now on the iPad mic. Let me go to AirPods and see if that helps. No? I don't know. All right. Well, anyway, I'll say it on Sean's behalf
Sign it.
that Sean has been cranking out music videos in a really cool way. He's been doing really, really cool stuff. And
I made lyric videos.
right. But you've got some magic technique for making cool, simple videos. I mean, you don't necessarily like script out an entire scene and have actors and stuff like that. You sort of
Right.
found a clever way to make cool visuals and lyrics and making it something fun to watch.
Yeah, I have a friend, Tony Gaddis, who does that, makes videos professionally. And his one advice to me was to make it as simple as possible. If you don't have any money and you try to make it complicated, it's just going to be terrible. So the main thing, if you don't have any money, is to just try to make it as simple as possible. Get one idea and just kind of focus on that. And that's kind of what I did, especially with the lyric videos, that the lyrics are the main thing that people are looking at. So
Yeah, I feel like that's similar to recording in the studio. It's like if you don't have any time, keep it as simple as possible and just
Right.
have fun making the music and don't get stuck on the editing. John,
Right.
Fintel, maybe you can comment on that. Like, I mean, we already did, but still, it's like when you take time to edit things and keep working on it, does it get done quickly or does it just find a reason to just keep going a lot of times?
When you're editing while you're trying to.
Yeah.
As you're
Yeah,
creating the record, or
when you get granular in the making of a record.
while you're making it, that's typically you do what you can do and you move on, or it's gonna ruin the, how the room is working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People lose interest and stuff like that, and then it's you have to
But-
just you can do a couple things and then you gotta keep it going.
as far as videos go, we certainly would love to make videos. If, if people are interested in helping us out or working with us on making videos, I'd be interested in that. But we don't have any specific plans, or any budget for making videos at the current time.
We'll make like studio video stuff when you guys come here.
That's one of Megan's big things is he always tells us, when you're in the studio, record video, take pictures, and we never
we'll do loads of it.
Never-
Videos, like for all you guys that are out there doing this kind of recording stuff, videos are really the key way to help get stickiness for the songs, for getting people to listen to the songs over and over again. YouTube is one of the most popular ways for people that come back to the song over and over again. That's going to happen on YouTube more than it is on any other.
Well, Jon has a good way of getting his friends to come and, his collaborator friends to come and shoot. It seems like every time I turned around when we were at Relay, somebody had a camera shooting video or stills. You've got a really good network for that.
I do. That's true. I know loads of videographers and people have
Actually, who came by and took some amazing photos is a shout out to our buddy Chris Graham up in Columbus too. I've got those framed. I've got a framed picture of you, Jon, here in the studio at the Toy Box Studio. Yeah, you're on permanent. You're on permanent collection.
Do I have pants on?
You'll have to come down and find out.
And Pete John's comment's perfect. The lyric videos or visualizations work well. Even outtakes and live recordings, cuts like you're talking about, are key. So that sums it up precisely.
So Meghan, can you before we play our last song, I think we're up to the last one. Can you talk about your guidance to our group as the record label in terms of how to release music to have, and I mean, let's be clear, we're not talking about superstar status, we're not talking about major label stuff, but Meghan, you always have your ear to the ground on what's a smart way to release music as an independent artist. You've got a ton of experience with it, and you suggested that we should, while on the other end of the spectrum, those of us like my good friend Chris, who are just excited to let's just put it out and send it to our friends right away. You sort of steered us towards, let's be patient and let's release it intentionally. So talk about that.
Right. So one of the key things about releasing music is you want to do it right now. The old school method is you go out and you put a CD out and you release it right away, and you literally have everything goes out in one fell swoop. Nowadays, promotion cycles are much smaller, and you really need to take advantage of that. So what that means is you put out one song at a time until the full record is released, drip feed it, so to speak, and you get a promotion cycle out of each one. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to say that the person that taught me the most about press and publicity is right here on this video, Chris. The main thing before you get started is to make sure you got a good press release going, that you have what's called a cut line, a 1 or 2 sentence blurb about the project, and then a bigger article or a bigger thing describing what the project is. Make it a great story, give it so that people can talk about it. And Chris, you can probably explain it far better than I can.
I don't remember having any of these influences on you guys.
Chris, you're the one that influenced Matt.
I have no idea.
Chris, there's one sentence that describes Chris from the get-go in playing music with him, and that's when we had the band Enormous Richard. People would say this one comment about Chris. I mean, there were many more to come, but this one comment always stuck, which was Chris gets gigs.
Yeah.
So Chris had that ability to get on the phone, call people, book us a gig, and make some shit happen. And also, I wanted to just give another shout out. Pete Johns jumping on the comments from Studio Live today makes another wise observation that rule number 1 for indie artists is don't buy clicks and streams. Don't spend money to try and pursue stuff. What does that mean to you, Meghan?
Yeah, so basically there's a lot of clickbait farms. So you go out, you pay money and they'll get you clicks, but those are worthless clicks. So you might pay, let's say, $100 or $500 or $1,000 to some organization that says, "Hey, we'll get you 1,000 clicks," but in reality, you're not getting a lot of like actual fans logging onto your site and stuff like that. So that's a really important thing. It has to be organic. So some of the ways you can make for an organic thing is go out, when people sign up to your fan page, your web page. Reach out to them, message them, just something simple. Thank you so much for signing up for my page. Simple message, just to thank you. That'll get people more excited about you. Reaching out, connecting with the fans individually. I worked with an artist a while back who would go through and whenever something would come out, instead of just putting out a blast email, she would actually go out and write an individual email to the different fans that had signed up for her. And
That's amazing.
Maybe even include, it was a lot of work, lots of work, but it builds a deep fan base when you're reaching out to people directly. So that's a really important point.
I do have a follow-up comment to that. To begin with, let me follow up by saying, Matt Fuller in the house. Sorry, Matt.
Fuller.
Sorry you missed when we were giving you the hugest shout out about the artwork that you do, but you can rewind to watch that part. You are awesome. To that point that you were just making, Megan, I learned a really great tip. It was called like how to be an Instagram ninja or something from somebody once at a conference. And it was this really simple idea. So if you're a podcast, for example, like I am, but you don't have to be, if you're just an artist and people are familiar with your voice through your music and you use something like Instagram, when somebody follows your Instagram page, the greatest, most effective thing you can do is do the follow back of those people. And then you go into the message app. And because it gives you this ability to send a voice message, you can just press that and say, hey, so-and-so's name, thanks so much for following my page. I'm really glad you're here. You rock. And that's it, something like that. And so now all of a sudden, somebody who's a fan of your music, say, and the sound of your singing voice through the internet and through your Instagram channel, they've just heard your voice saying their name and a thank you. And that's a really it's just kind of like a cool personal touch to the digital side of things.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, there's a couple of artists that I'm fans of that I follow, and they'll send me things like, they'll put out a new record and they'll say, let me know what you think of this. I'm just some guy listening, I'm not even, I'm not working with them or anything, but they'll say, let me know what you think of this. If you have any suggestions, kind of thing. It's like, wow, okay. And it's an individualized one. It's not like when they send me the message, it's not a, hey fans, kind of thing. It's more like a, hey, they address me by name. Hey, Megan, they'll send me a direct message, which is great. It's like, okay, this person's obviously, or their team is listening to me, but at least I feel heard. And when I respond to them, they respond back. And that's really amazing. That's like, oh, okay, somebody's actually listening to this. That's the kind of stuff you want to build up as an artist.
Yeah, that's great. So we have Pete Johns jumping in again and saying, oh, that's a killer tip, Lij. Thanks, I'm totally stealing. Steal away. I stole it from the guy I learned it from, and it was very effective. And if you're using Instagram, it's great. If you're not, you're just going to try it for a minute and put it aside and come back later, whatever. And then Rapper BC, Brian Carter, I believe that's you, says, presidents of the United States of America, actual presidents, not the band, which is funny that you said that because I was just trying to turn my 18-year-old daughter on to the band presidents of the United States of America just this week. But the real presidents used to personally write letters to people. If they can do it, musicians can do it. That's a great tip.
I'll tell you one of the most effective way. One of the school board members, my son wrote an email to sent an email to one of the school board members. He got a handwritten letter back from that school board member, thanking him for the thought and responding directly to his comments. And we voted for him every time since then. Not really into music, but I was blown away by that.
Dude, I was pen pals with Natalie Merchant because 10,000 Maniacs put an address on their first record. She wrote me back from her mother's house, gave me her mother's home address, and we were pen pals for a couple years. So play the next song now that I've destroyed all of your anecdotes.
Awesome. As Rapper BC says, you can't build a following on thin gruel. Yeah. All right, here we go. Final track. This one says it all. We might be at the end of our record, and you may have listened to us for 2+ hours chatting about music, but God damn if this isn't a great way to do a digital record release party. We're going to do many more of these to come, but hopefully you will come back tomorrow. So let's mute our microphones so we don't have to hear whoever's washing their hands right now. And here comes the last one. Come back tomorrow.
Time hangs heavy on many hands. Clowns were running from house to house, from pea green house to sky blue house, backed by tortoise-back drums and sheep-toed castanets. I want to sleep tonight on white fields of snowy bread. There will be fire in a while, a little while. Come back tomorrow, now is not good. Come back tomorrow. You swore he would go blind, said he never looked you in the eye. You can take all your fear and just leave it here. There will be fire in a while, a little while. Come back tomorrow, now is not good. Come back tomorrow.
Beautimus. Is that actually a word? Chris, as an English professor?
Anything's a word if you can get enough people to use it.
All right. Let's work on that right here and now. So I said beautimus. Sean?
Beautimus.
Megan?
Beautimus.
John? Dave?
Beautimus.
Beautimus.
Chris?
That is a beautimus word.
Language is only words changing. Do you catch my semantic drift?
We almost made it all the way through.
I love that
Chris
quote.
is like,
That's
no.
from a past record.
Yeah, from another
It
Sean
took
McGovern
6
record.
people to make it a real word. And Chris is like,
And we should talk about a future record too coming up.
Yeah, so what's coming up, Meg?
Well, we've got a new record. Chris has a new record coming up, Orhan Veli. Chris, do you care to talk about that?
Orhan Veli. Yeah, it's a great Turkish modern poet, the father of modern Turkish poetry. Pretty much the same band, put him to rock music. I'm the singer rather than Sean, so let's say the singing is not as listenable, but might have a little bit more of a weird spirit to it.
It's great.
It's great.
Great.
It's great. It's great.
It's great.
It's one of your best vocals, Chris.
Beautimus.
Beautimus, man. So one of the things that we're doing, of course, is we're sort of releasing records in reverse order, too, because I think, did we record Orhan Veli and then Porcupine, but we released Porcupine probably because Sean had his shit together so well that we were able to finish the record quickly.
No, Sean was chewing his fingers down to the middle knuckle because thinking he was never going to get his record released. That's what it was. It was Sean's intense anxiety that this record was never going to come out.
That's awesome.
There
Well,
were elaborate strategy sessions about finishing this record.
so
Sean and I spent a lot of time talking about it.
let me pivot to you, Megan, as we close out here on the live stream. What would you like to say about where people can go listen to this record? Where should they go check it out? What's a good place to go listen to Porcupine?
Well, I'll start with YouTube. Sean has posted up a lot of the videos up on YouTube, lyric videos that are really great to watch. Also, Apple iTunes, Spotify, those are the big ones that everybody listens to. It's also available on Amazon and a lot of other smaller distributors, but the big ones are going to be YouTube. YouTube's, I think, it's most interesting because you've got the lyric videos to go along with it.
And what do we search for if we're looking for it?
Type in Sean McGovern Porcupine.
Okay, MC Govern.
McGovern.
Is that what it really McGovern stands for? It's like, yo, I'm MC Govern. Is that what it is?
It is. He is the governor of MC.
Awesome, dude. Well, you guys, thank you so much for joining us on the live stream. Rockstars, anybody who's watching this later, now, in the future, whenever, this could be up for long after we're come and gone. Who knows with the internet? And you guys, thank you for joining me here. Meghan, thank you so much for being an awesome record label for us and making sure that we put this out in the smartest way. John Fintel, can we all just do an I'm Not Worthy?
Yeah,
Big shout out on the mix.
Oh my God.
Huge shout out.
Dude, you're an inspiration. So thank you for doing this with us.
Awesome to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it again.
My pleasure.
And a shout out to those who couldn't join us. So Matt Fuller, who's hopefully watching this right now. Matt, you're amazing. And the artwork is incredible. And you're an inspiration musically, whether you were here or not. And Peter Brooks, thank God for Peter. And
Thank God for Peter.
thank God for guitar, thank God for Peter's guitar.
Yeah.
And then Jon Rich.
Jon Rich was amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, John, hope you watch this someday.
Yeah. And a shout out to you, Chris Hessian, for just being the intern at the session and helping make things happen and be fun.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Any closing words from you? There you go. All right. Thanks for watching.
Beautimus.
Beautimus.